everything becoming digital nowadays, we see the creation of NFTs and the rise of crypto. But what are they all about, and how are they used? Returning guest, David Crouch, a financial guru, gives us his take on all of this. Do you think NFTs are going to be a big part of our future?
No, not at all. Once that hype goes away and somebody owns that NFT, who are they going to sell it to?
How will countries, society, and the economy respond to the new market? And what exactly does the future of digital assets look like?
The reason why all these countries are getting involved is because it takes away power. They see crypto as taking control away from them. If they can't track the currency, it makes them nervous. People in the bigger realms have been able to see that they can get away with certain tax advantages of the NFTs and using creative accounting.
Don't forget to tune in at the end for a panel discussion. And with that, let's get right into today's American Game Changer. Well, David Crouch, welcome back to American Game Changers in the Epoch Times.
Happy to be back.
Absolutely. So you've kind of, for me personally, have kind of come into a little bit of my own financial guru. But for people that didn't watch our last episode and are just kind of learning about you, tell us a little bit about your background in the financial world.
All right, so I run a hedge fund for one, and I run a global financial literacy organization called TikTok, spelled TICTOC, started in 2015. Not before the other one got big. But overall, I've been trading for 7+ years, and I trade anything that you can name in the finance world.
Nice. So one of the main reasons that I wanted to bring you in today is because there's this new thing happening, and I am just completely lost, and so I need your help to kind of explain it. So what is NFTs?
So NFTs are a non-fungible token. That's what NFT stands for. It means there's only one of it. Now, usually, as we've all seen in social media or things like the Bored Ape Yacht Club or anything like that, it's people connecting that token to a digital piece of art.
Explain to me though, so people invest into it and it's just a piece of art. Does it have to be art, or could it be a sculpture of some sort?
Yeah, sure. It could be a sculpture, it can be a painting, it could be a car. Something that I've actually wanted to see is I want to see somebody connect an NFT to a house. Because the real purpose of NFTs, or what they should be in my view, is I think that NFTs should only be connected to physical things. I think it defeats the purpose if you connect it to a digital asset that anybody could have, if you make it public at least. And when it comes to sculptures and everything like that, it's just, in my view, I think it should be best used to prove ownership or validate that you are the true owner, like a deed in a sense.
What is an NFT with an application?
So an NFT with an application is you have the NFT, but then anyone who has that NFT on that specific blockchain, then that person has a pass to whatever it may be. Maybe you get, I don't know, a bottle of wine or something like that, or maybe you get entrance to a certain venue, or maybe you own the right to, I don't know, rent a car or something like that, or maybe you're put into a lotto and only you and everyone else in that same NFT album are put into that lotto. There's a bunch of different applications that can be like that, but so the NFT is more to verify that you are the owner to be put into a pool or to be able to use that application.
Do you think NFTs are going to be a big part of our future in the financial world?
No. Not at all.
Why do you say that?
I think NFTs are more of just a fad because let's say the problem that I see is the liquidity. So let's say like you see the Bored Ape Yacht Club, people are spending millions and millions of dollars, and yeah, they get access to be in these groups and these discords and these local chats online with all these famous people like Future, for example, or all these rappers or different artists. But it's just a phase in a way, because most of the people, they can afford stuff like that for one, but then for everything else, let's say like the middle tier stuff, there's hype there, or I'll say hype, but then once that hype goes away and somebody owns that NFT, what if they don't like it and they just made it for an investment and there's no application to it? Who are they going to sell it to? The answer is nobody.
Right. Why do you think why is NFTs caught on? Why is this trend becoming so much bigger?
I think that the trends become big in a way because people in the bigger realms have been able to see that they can get away with certain tax advantages of the NFTs and using creative accounting. And I'll give you an example of that. So let's say you have, I don't know, $9,000 in capital gains. Now, let's say you have an account and you publish an NFT. Now it's at whatever value, but then you have an anonymous account, or you get somebody else to make an account, and then they hypothetically bid $10,000 on that NFT. Now let's say you say, oh, well, for my promotion for our NFT album, we're gonna make it on discount. So I'm gonna sell it to that person or whoever else bids on it for just $1,000 on a sale. Now you, since it's valued at $10,000, technically have a $9,000 capital loss. So now you on your accounting, you're gonna take that $9,000 capital loss and you're gonna take your $9,000 capital gain and now you have no capital gains.
Don't have anything.
Don't have anything. It's just neutral.
Very interesting. You know, I just see so many. I mean, I think the other day I saw like a monkey photo. I think I don't understand.
Probably sold for 100 million or something
Someone
ridiculous
took a picture
like
of
that.
themselves. I saw a monkey one, and it's just such an interesting thing. So, why is it such a good way to use your financial? What is their argument? I would say for it.
There's some people who like to invest in it so that they can flip it really quick. And those people are like day traders for the stock world, but just for the crypto world in a sense, with whatever phase it may be. They could have been skim trading Bitcoin for all we know in the previous, but now since NFTs have more volatility and something could get hype really quick and go from 1,000 to 20,000 really quick, they're looking at that. But there's not really any fundamentals to NFT per se, because they really have no intrinsic value, right? It's just wherever the hype is. So if people want to go invest their time in following the hype, which I personally won't do because I think that's way too much time to spend just for a one-time thing that you might find. And what if one day that industry is completely gone? Then like you're kind of stuck there with that NFT, right? Like I said earlier. But I think people are really interested in it because they want to be a part of the hype and they want to be a part of the culture, and they're trying to build their brands and show, look, I'm relevant and I want to be heard.
Yeah. So moving on to another, thing that I feel like is really trendy right now, and that's the crypto market and cryptocurrency. So I follow cryptocurrency and I see it goes up and down and all this. It seems to be all over the place. Explain to me what's been going on the last few months in the crypto world.
So what's been going on is crypto, as far as Bitcoin and Ethereum, and since Bitcoin and Ethereum, I call them the index coins, since whatever they do, the rest of the market pretty much follows. They've been correlated with the overall markets like the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, and you'll notice that for the past year or so, whenever Bitcoin has gone up, it's on the same day usually that the overall market and the S&P 500 has gone up. Or when the market's had a really bad day, you'll usually see Bitcoin and Ethereum have a really bad day too, and then that trickles into all the other smaller coins because it's a sentiment. People like to invest in the coins because of sentiment, and that's how those are affected. It's behavioral finance in that aspect. But so the reason why they follow so closely nowadays rather than before, because about 5 years or so ago, whenever the markets would go up, Bitcoin would go down. Whenever the markets would go down, Bitcoin would go up. So they had an inverse relationship before. The reason it switched is because the major banks, except for Goldman Sachs, are heavily invested, not heavily for them, but from our perspective, on big quantities. When you see a couple 100 million or maybe even $1 billion in some cases go into Bitcoin or Ethereum, that's a heavy investment, right? They have so much money into the major cryptos now that when they're making a move, the overall market is going to shift with it. So if they're ever down on a position, right, what are they going to sell first as to cover margin or anything else in that case, or just to kind of wash a position? They're going to sell their most unregulated and they're going to sell their most risky assets. So in this case, it happens to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. So when they do that, it affects everything else too.
Interesting. So do you foresee that the up and down is going to continue?
I believe so. I think that when we have a big down day for our overall traditional markets, we're going to see a big down day for crypto. And there's something interesting that'll happen there. There's certain coins that are altcoins, and those altcoins I'm speaking of, the ones that have staking mechanisms. When you stake into them, you get a dividend, right? By holding and staying staked with your coins. So those ones will fall also when the market falls, but they have a floor price. Because when it gets to a certain level, depending on the percent of people that are staked into those coins, when it gets to a certain level, it's going to have that floor price. Because if those people sell, they won't get their dividend. They'll be unstaked. So those floor price coins are the ones I'm really going to be looking at that have the staking mechanism. But for the overall cryptos, I think it's going to get bad, and I think Bitcoin's going to go to 20,000. I think Ethereum will reach a low of around 1.8K, and we'll see from there.
Interesting. Do you believe that crypto is going to be something that that is just going to be even more, I was asking someone the other day here, I go, is self-driving cars, is that going to be something that everyone's using, like the basic consumer? Do you see that just everyday people will be using crypto here in the future?
1,000%. I think that people are going to be using digital assets for years and years to come, just because of the fact that there's numerous and infinite applications that digital assets can be used for. Actually, I read today that in the town of Lugano in Switzerland, as the unofficial de facto tender, if you want to call it that, they've been using Bitcoin and Tether.
How's that been going for them?
I don't know. I'm curious to find out how it will go. We're keeping our eye just to see how that all works, because for myself personally, I'm actually doing a study to see what's the best mechanism for people to stabilize a stablecoin. Is it algorithmic? Is it one-to-one? How do you do it? What's the ratio you input there to make it the best stablecoin you can? And the Federal Reserve is actually trying right now to do a US dollar coin, but not USDC, but to make it like the Federal Reserve's digital currency. Personally, I don't think that'll work out, because I think it'll be far too centralized and too manipulatable, like our dollar already is as fiat.
So I saw something like that, and I didn't quite understand it completely. And I saw China banned a lot of crypto, and I saw like governments are getting more involved when it comes to crypto and all that stuff. Where do you think that goes?
Well, so the reason why more governments are getting involved and trying to put down that heavy hand, it's usually in governments that are much more strict and that aren't as transparent with how their country operates. It's because they see crypto as taking control away from them. If they can't track the currency, it makes them nervous, right? And in the US, we haven't done anything that's very harsh, thanks to the grace of God, yet. And I'm trying to prevent that too, because I think that there should be light regulation so that people don't get scammed by certain things in the NFT world, for example, or different ICO pump and dumps. I think that there should be light regulation there, but the reason, like I said, the reason why all these countries are getting involved is because it takes away power. You cannot track people very easily on the blockchain, and it's just such a security for private people to have that it makes it dangerous for big authoritarian governments.
So that's what all the digital currencies and all that stuff, it's all managed and runs through blockchain, correct?
Correct.
So just for people that don't understand, explain what blockchain, even I get confused a little bit about, explain the blockchain.
So the blockchain is like the digital history of a cryptocurrency. Any transaction and any trade and any transfer is going to occur on the blockchain. And different cryptos have their own blockchain unless they're connected to a certain network. Like, for example, there's the Bitcoin, the main network, and then there's the Ethereum network. Or not many are on the Bitcoin network, more on the Ethereum network because of the smart contract application. But so on the Ethereum network, any coin that was made off of the Ethereum network, it all goes back to the Ethereum blockchain. And that's why, like I said, you'll see when Ethereum goes down, usually those coins that trade on the Ethereum blockchain will go down, also because they require what's called gas. Gas is like the commission or how much energy it takes to be able to make a transfer on the blockchain, and that is calculated in Gwei. But so it overall just calculates out back to how much Ethereum am I paying to make this transaction, right? But so the blockchain is just overall tracking everything. It's digitally encrypted, and the more times people trade on a certain crypto or the more transfers and exchanges that are made, the larger and longer the blockchain will get.
Very interesting. So there's a lot happening right now in the world. I mean, we're right now where Russia's getting sanctioned, and there's just a lot going on in the markets because of that. What is your predictions of the future? Where is our markets going? Should we expect to see a lot more inflation? What should we be looking at in general when it comes to the market?
I think inflation is definitely here, and it's here to stay for a while. I actually watched Jerome Powell's speech today, and they're talking about potentially 25 basis point raise. I think it'll be more closer to a 50 basis point raise at the end of the day because our inflation is so fast right now and so rampant. My prediction for the inflation report that comes out, I believe, in 2 weeks, I'm betting around 7.9%. And then from there on out, I think we'll be close to the double digits around the summer to early fall range, which is scary to think about. We haven't had that since the Carter administration, right? But so inflation is going to raise gas prices, as we're seeing everything in Russia right now with us. With Russia going into Ukraine, they're going there for reasons of the land, for one, the fertile soil, and then they want the gas fields. When Russia has the gas fields, that throws OPEC in a very strange dynamic. And that's why we've seen oil been rising so much, is because of cutting off from Russia out of that dependency. That creates the price rise because there's a lack of supply, right? So here in California, unfortunately, I think we might be seeing $7 at a pump.
Oh, wow.
Which in LA, I already saw 6.7. So in places like that, they might be seeing
that.
8.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's not fun at all. But so inflation's here to stay, and it's only going to get worse. And I try to not say that in a very pessimistic view, but there's no other real way to look at it. And the supply chain could get worse and more fractured with all the sanctions going in, and just cutting off trade just makes it harder for materials to get shipped around and overall just increase the cost of doing business.
Yeah. Do you think that what's happening globally will affect everyday people's pocketbooks?
I do think so. With the inflation, you're going to see your gas go up, you're going to see your electricity costs go up, you're going to see your cost of paying for groceries at the store. And the only way to combat that is really just raising interest rates. But then raising interest rates also has other effects.
Very interesting. So I don't want to leave it on all gloom and doom. So last question, little message of hope. If people that are just getting themselves involved in finance, you deal with a lot of young people in general. So
Correct.
People that are wanting to really build out their portfolio, what is your message of hope? What should young people or everyone is trying to get into the world start looking at?
I think young people, the best thing for them is to understand how all the finances play. Follow the money, see where it goes, and that's going to lead you to good investment opportunities. Because you don't only make money when the market's going up, but you can also make money just as easily when the market's going down. That's one of my favorite times to be making money. It's because when no one else is playing that, it's a lot cheaper to open that position, and then you make twice as much in some cases on certain put options. So there's always money to be made. It's just all perspective on what direction you're taking with the trade.
Absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. You're going to be back, I have a feeling.
Sounds good. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Have a good one. We just had our interview with David Crouch. He brought up a lot of interesting things. So I wanted to bring on Mono Meal and Ross Irwin from Bridge USA to kind of discuss with us a little bit about our conversation. And my first question for you guys is NFTs, is crypto, is that something that young people should be getting used to? Should we be skeptical, or is that just something that we're going to need to accept here?
Yeah, I mean, my thought on NFTs is like, it's the new thing that everyone is talking about, but actually most people don't have an idea of what they are. Our Bridge Pittsburgh chapter, for example, Nick, had a discussion on NFTs and cryptocurrency, and half of the discussion was trying to figure out what are NFTs. And so that being said, given the hype around NFTs, that I think happens with sort of every new technology, but I think that the evolution of Web3, the evolution of cryptocurrency, I think generally there's just this push to move more of our lives digitally. And I think given more of our lives becoming digital and online, you see that with the metaverse, you see that with social media, you saw that banking, you saw that with email. I think the value of things like digital assets will also increase because we're just placing more emphasis online.
What's your thoughts, Ross?
I think right now what's happening is we've got a new tech that people are just kind of forcing into every, the round peg into the square hole at any opportunity. Digital ownership is novel. It will be used. The ability to have something that is authentic and that you own it, like it creates value and it will be used. But I think right now it's like the .com bubble in some ways, except websites were even more useful then than I think NFTs even are now. Like this whole Bored Ape thing, like they're just collector's items with zero real value. And I think in 10 years we're going to look back and say, why did we have pictures of monkeys? But there will be some things that people take out of it, like being able to own, specific digital assets that will probably stay.
What do you see the downside of NFTs and crypto? If there's something that you think we should be worried about, what do you think it should be?
I think what we should be worried about is what's basically right now a multi-level marketing scheme. Is everyone's value of their NFT goes up the more people jump in and get excited about it. And so you see all these influencers talking about NFTs. I think my question for them would be, are you being paid in NFTs or are you being paid in real dollars? Because I think the NFT people are like, we got to drum up excitement, but it's all about whether people are excited or not. It's not about like the real long-term value that those things hold.
Yeah, and the place where I would sort of push back a little bit is, I think, to me the NFTs sort of rush is, I think, less value oriented and more hype oriented. I think, to be honest, to me it sometimes comes across as a scam, and the reason being is because most people still don't know what an NFT is, yet the value is driving up as if everyone has an idea of what they're investing in. And I always am fearful of moves like that, because oftentimes when people come up with investment schemes, when people come up with ways to drive people's money up, oftentimes the losers are just everyday people that have put a little bit of their money into it. And I think we need to be careful about things like NFTs, because it goes back to, for example, Bitcoin. When Bitcoin crashed, the losers were not the large investors, because they knew what they were actually investing in. The losers were the people that bought into the hype generated by large investors at their own sort of personal risk. And I think that's the fundamental problem with things like NFTs. That doesn't speak to necessarily, the technological application, but I think Ross, to an extent, is right that the notion of selling, an NFT of a house in San Francisco, which went for $25 million, we will look back 10 years later and say, what the hell was that?
Exactly. I think that a lot of this, comes down to hype, and you do see a lot of the just how it picks up on social media, and next thing you know, people are putting millions of dollars into a monkey painting. And it's strange to me. I think it's a learning thing. So we discussed a lot about cryptocurrency. We kind of got into our conversation about how a lot of that is transferring over. If there's anything about the crypto other than what you just kind of discussed about kind of it going up and then going down, and the people that were on the lower end really suffered from it, but is there anything in particular that you fear in regards to things becoming more in the digital asset realm?
I fear two things. One is, the whole idea of digital ownership, I think it's inevitable, but it's also like the whole idea behind a lot of the early internet was all of a sudden everyone gets to access everything. We get to share, we get to create like a cool collective place that we've totally lost. And we will lose even further. Like there is going to be none of that. You're going to have to pay $3 for every single piece of information you read, I think, in the next decade. That's bad news. The other thing is, frankly, our society is disconnected. We're angry, we're isolated, we're depressed. I think that's because we do most of our interactions through this thing, through a screen, through a camera. I think the whole move is bad. I think what everyone needs to be doing is talking to people in person and developing relationships with people that they can shake hands with, right? And like go out to dinner with. And so I think that's all bad, but it seems very inevitable.
Yeah, to add to sort of the last part, because I would largely agree with the first piece. Nick, I think that the general fear that I have is not, we just have more social media, or we have the metaverse, or we have NFTs. It's that in collection, more and more of our life is digitally run. And I just think that flies in the face of thousands of years of evolutionary history. Like, I could see ourselves in 50 years never having to leave the house and never having to live with anyone, because theoretically all of our virtual life needs are met. And so my fear about, for example, digital assets is it's again one more thing that we're taking out of the physical and putting into the virtual. And I think that it is incredibly hubristic for us to just fast pace the innovation to the point where we're not really innovating to solve any problems. We're kind of innovating because We just have to innovate. And I don't necessarily see the problem that NFTs are solving. I do see the problem that things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are solving. I think that large asset controls in the hands of government sometimes can be risky. I think having more decentralized ownership is important. But like, what is an NFT solving? I don't know. I feel like it's just creating more confusion. And I think that's scary.
So again, I just got done with this interview with David. And so my question is to you guys. You guys are both young individuals. Are you guys going to be investing in NFTs?
Well, I can't even, pay my rent. So investing in NFTs is far off. I will tell you that running Bridge USA, we've actually been approached a couple of times about launching an NFT community. And, when we think about an NFT community, it does sound like an interesting fundraising vehicle. You basically develop these assets that people buy into. That money goes to Bridge, but vice versa. They get ownership and they get assets in this broader movement, and they feel like they're part of something. But to me, people that talk about NFTs, they often say that it's like baseball cards. When you collect baseball cards, over time their value significantly increases. Like, I would just rather buy the real painting. Like, why would I have a digital picture of a painting when I can just pay for the real one? And it's cheaper. So to me, maybe I'm a dinosaur, but it just doesn't make sense in terms of the value.
How about you, Ross?
I don't run any portfolio currently, but I think if you're a savvy investor, you're going to understand that there's a lot of high potential growth. There's a lot of potential loss in the space too. But you probably should have some of your portfolio dedicated to that kind of short-term risky thing. And I think maybe, NFTs could be good. I think it's probably smarter just to be in a coin, like in Ethereum or Bitcoin or some of the new ones coming out. I think it will be valuable, especially the currency. And there's really a chance that some of these NFTs survive as valuable assets. So I think you probably should be in it. But as with Manu, I'm not flush with cash.
But where I would actually disagree with Ross, though, is I don't even think people should be in NFTs, especially younger people, because there isn't enough data to predict the up and down value of an NFT. The really large scale investments in NFTs have only happened over the last 2 years. People are just starting to figure out trends around Bitcoin. And it's taken 5 to 7 years. And so investing in an NFT right now, I think, is only an option available for people that have lots of money and they're willing to lose that money. But for young people, I would say that a coin is a more stable investment. But even a coin, like, most people still don't have an idea what a coin is. I just feel like you should be pushing investments that people actually know what they are. Like, I can't even claim to pretend I know how a Bitcoin operates and moves in terms of its stock value.
Yeah, but there are so many good investments that you would have had if you didn't quite understand. Like, if you invested in Facebook, you would have said, I don't really know what you're trying to do, but I think it's got energy here, right? And like, that would have paid off. And there are a lot of different sectors that have bubbled and built up, that you could have made a lot of money off of. And you as a young person should have a riskier portfolio. As you age, you should bring down your risk and make sure you're more stable. But when you're young and you have more time to make that money back, you should be investing in things that could give you really high growth early.
Interesting point. And one thing I could say is that I feel like crypto and NFTs are definitely here to stay. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Ross, Manu, really appreciate it. Hopefully to have you guys back on soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.